My name is Marina, and I never thought I would be telling this story. A story about how my husband and my best friend betrayed me, and how that betrayal changed me forever. For a long time I stayed silent. I felt ashamed. Ashamed that I trusted the wrong people. Ashamed that I didn't see the signs. Ashamed that I was the last person to know what was happening in my own marriage. But today, I want to tell everything. Because maybe my story will help someone else open their eyes before it's too late. I met my best friend Emily when we were 10 years old. She was the new girl in class. Quiet, shy, wearing an old backpack and looking terrified. The teacher sat her next to me and asked me to help her settle in. I remember giving her half of my sandwich and showing her around the school. From that day on, we became inseparable. We did homework together, shared secrets, cried over boys, dreamed about the future. We promised each other that we would never betray one another. We said we would be best friends forever. I believed that promise with my whole heart. When I was 19, I met Ethan. He was 5 years older than me, confident, tall, calm, and kind. He worked in IT and seemed mature and reliable, everything I wanted in a partner. Emily was the first person I told about him. She helped me choose outfits for our dates. She helped me reply to his messages when I felt shy. She kept saying he was perfect and that I should never let him go. I felt like the luckiest girl in the world. 2 years later, Ethan proposed. He got down on one knee in a restaurant and pulled out a ring. I cried. Emily cried. The waiters applauded. At my wedding, Emily was my maid of honor. She held my hand before the ceremony when I was nervous and kept telling me how much I deserved happiness. She cried louder than anyone when Ethan and I exchanged vows. Back then, I had no idea those tears weren't only from happiness. After the wedding, Ethan and I bought our first apartment. It was small but cozy, and it felt like the beginning of our dream life. Emily started coming over almost every day. She would come without warning, bring food, help around the house, sometimes stay overnight if it was late. Ethan joked that he had 2 wives. We laughed. To me, it felt normal. She was like a sister. But after a couple of years, I started to feel left out. They laughed at jokes I didn't understand. They talked about things I knew nothing about. Whenever I walked into the room, their conversations suddenly stopped. I told myself I was just tired. I didn't want to be the jealous wife who controlled her husband and friend. One day, Emily said, "You've changed since you got married. You used to be more fun." Her words hurt more than I expected, but I stayed silent. The first red flags were small. Ethan started going to the gym late at night. Emily started going with him because, as she said, she was bored going alone. They came back laughing, whispering to each other. I asked Ethan if he thought it was strange that Emily spent so much time with us. He replied, "She's your friend, not mine. If you don't like it, talk to her." I felt guilty for even thinking something was wrong. Then I noticed Emily started copying me. She bought the same perfume, changed her hairstyle to match mine, started dressing in a similar style. I joked that she was trying to be my clone. She laughed and said I just had good taste. But once she said something that stayed with me. What if I had met Ethan first? I wonder what would have happened. I laughed, but something inside me twisted. The first real suspicion came one night. I saw Ethan texting someone in bed. When I approached, he quickly locked his phone. I asked who he was talking to. He said it was a colleague. A few days later, I noticed Emily receiving messages from him right in front of me. She smiled and quickly put her phone away. I started feeling like I was living in a triangle. The real nightmare began the day I found their messages. Ethan had left his phone on the kitchen table. I had never checked his phone before. But my intuition was screaming. I opened his messages, and my entire marriage collapsed in front of my eyes. Their chat was long, endless, full of "I love you, I miss you, you're mine." They talked about how naive I was. She wrote, "Sometimes I think she suspects something." He replied, "She's too trusting. She would never check my phone." There were photos. There were voice messages where he told her he loved her. There were plans to run away together if everything comes out. This had been going on for 2 years. 2 whole years. I sat on the floor staring at his phone until the words stopped making sense. I remembered Emily crying at my wedding. I remembered Ethan promising to love only me. Everything had been a lie. I decided not to confront them immediately. I wanted to see how far this betrayal went. So I became quiet, observant. I started noticing everything. How they exchanged looks, how he texted her whenever we argued, how she comforted him when he was upset with me. I saw her touch his arm when she thought I wasn't watching. I saw him smile at her the way he hadn't smiled at me in years. One day, I followed them. I told them I had to stay late at work. Instead, I followed their car. They met at a small cafe. They sat close, holding hands. He kissed her on the forehead, then on the lips. I sat in my car and watched my life fall apart. That evening, I confronted him. He didn't deny it. He said things had gotten complicated. He said Emily understood him better. He said he loved me, but his feelings for her were real too. I called Emily. She came over crying, saying she never meant for this to happen. She said she felt guilty, but she admitted she loved him. That was the moment I realized I lost both my husband and my best friend. I left. I stayed with my sister for weeks. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep. I felt like I was living in someone else's nightmare. Then, 1 month later, I found out I was pregnant. And that was only the beginning of everything. After I left, I thought I could at least try to move on, but every room, every item in our apartment screamed betrayal at me. I felt like a part of me had died along with that lie. I threw myself into work. Photography, my longtime hobby, became my only lifeline. But every time I saw couples on the street, friends laughing together, family dinners, my chest tightened. I realized I might never trust the same way again. One day, a couple of weeks after moving in with my sister, I got an unexpected call. It was Ethan. I didn't answer. He sent a message. "Marina, please, can we talk? I need to explain." I threw the phone onto the couch. My heart was pounding. I wanted to scream to tell him to never ever appear in my life again, but there was a tiny part of me that couldn't close that door completely. The next day, I ran into Emily by chance at a cafe where I was taking photos. She looked exhausted, the same green eyes I had once trusted like a sister's. "Marina," she whispered. I don't know how to live with this." I looked at her and saw the little girl I had once protected. But now, beside her, was the cold shadow of betrayal. "Do you want pity?" I asked. "Or an answer?" She dropped her gaze. "I know I lost you forever. And maybe him too. But I can't forget." I felt something twist inside me. Pain, anger, and a strange trace of pity all mixed together. Meanwhile, Ethan didn't give up. He started sending letters, messages, trying to meet me. Every time I saw his name, my chest felt like it was exploding with hate and longing at the same time. Why does he think I want to see him, I thought. How can they destroy someone so completely, like we're nothing to them? One night, I couldn't resist anymore. One last check. I opened their chat left on an old phone, and there it was. "She's gone. But I can't. I need you. I still love you." And then I understood the terrifying truth. The betrayal went deeper than I imagined. Ethan and Emily weren't just cheating. They were obsessed with each other. I decided it was time to act. I started documenting everything, every message, every meeting, every detail. I needed proof, not just for myself, but for the world. I knew this was far from over. Then my life suddenly changed. I found out I was pregnant. And this news flipped everything upside down. Now I couldn't just disappear. I had to survive for myself and for my child. I started building a new life. Work, new friends, prenatal classes, all of it helped. But inside me, a storm was raging. Every text from Ethan, every whisper of Emily's name, reminded me of what I had lost. And then, the first twist I never expected. One evening, I got a call from a hospital. Someone had reported Ethan after an accident. He was hurt, alone, and apparently, Emily had vanished without a trace. My heart stopped. Part of me wanted to rush to him to see the man who had destroyed my life, and part of me felt nothing, because finally the power was mine. But I didn't go. Instead, I realized something I hadn't allowed myself to admit. I was no longer the girl who cried at weddings, the girl who trusted blindly, the girl who let her life be stolen. I was someone new, stronger, sharper, and determined. And that determination would change everything. Here's the next section. Days passed. I threw myself into my new life, but I couldn't ignore the shadows of Ethan and Emily. Every notification, every familiar place, every memory whispered their betrayal. I tried to focus on my pregnancy, on preparing a safe world for my baby, but part of me burned with a need for answers and justice. Then one evening as I returned from a prenatal appointment, I saw a figure waiting outside my sister's house. It was Emily. Her hair was disheveled, eyes haunted. She looked like a ghost from the past, but alive enough to make my stomach twist with anger and disbelief. "Marina, I had to see you," she said, her voice trembling. I need to tell you the truth. Everything." I stepped back. My instincts screamed to run, to slam the door, to never let her in. But I stayed, because this time I was not the naive girl who let betrayal happen. This time I had power. "Fine," I said coldly. "Then tell me." She sat, shaking, tears falling freely. "Ethan, he never wanted to leave you. He lied to me. He manipulated me. I thought I loved him, but he used me to hurt you. And I was so stupid. I believed him. I didn't mean for any of this. I didn't know that he'd destroy you like this." I stared at her, trying to process. Part of me wanted to scream, to hit her, to make her feel even a fraction of the pain she caused. But another part of me wanted to see clearly. "And you think saying this now fixes anything?" I asked. "No," she whispered. I need you to know. I'm done. I swear, Marina, I want nothing to do with him anymore." A week later, I received a call I didn't expect. "Ethan." His voice was low, almost pleading. "Marina, I need to see you, please. I want to explain everything." For a moment, I felt a flicker of the old love I had for him. But I pushed it away. I remembered the years of lies, the nights I spent crying, the life they had tried to steal from me. "No," I said firmly. "You don't get a second chance. Not with me. Not with my child." He was silent for a long moment. Then he hung up. I realized then that I didn't need them anymore. I didn't need their apologies, their explanations, or their love. Because I had something they could never take away. My life. My strength. And the new life growing inside me. I started documenting everything. My pregnancy, my thoughts, my fears, my victories. I even started sharing pieces of my story online, anonymously at first, until I realized it could help others. Women like me, betrayed, lost, confused. Maybe they could find strength in my journey. Months passed. I gave birth to a healthy baby girl. Holding her in my arms for the first time, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Pure, unshakable love. Love that wasn't tainted by lies, betrayal, or obsession. And in that moment, I made a vow. My daughter would never know the fear I lived through. She would grow up knowing her mother was brave, strong, and unbreakable. Ethan and Emily, they disappeared from my life entirely. I heard rumors. They were together for a while. Then their relationship fell apart under the weight of their lies. But I didn't care. Their story ended where mine truly began. Now, years later, I look back and see how far I've come. Betrayal tried to define me, but I refused. It almost broke me, almost stole my future, but it didn't. I survived, I thrived, and I created a life filled with truth, love, and strength. A life they could never touch again. Because sometimes the greatest story isn't about who betrayed you, but about how you rose from the ashes, stronger than ever.